because vacation is from a Latin word to empty out. Vacuum comes from the same root. So vacating is emptying out. And the Salaf called it takhliya. There's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that the Prophet emptied us out of Jahiliyyah and then he filled us of Islam. So this spiritual practice is about emptying before it's about, you have to be emptied before you can be filled. If you're already filled, in fact, most of us are full of ourselves. So that's the problem, is how do we empty our souls of ourselves, emptying the soul of the self. And that's a very difficult thing. But what's interesting is the Prophet ﷺ was, when Jibreel first met him on Jabal Nur, the Mountain of Light, he squeezed him. And some of the ulama took from that the ishara, he squeezed him 3 times. And it was actually to make sure that he was completely empty of himself before giving him the revelation. And that's why he thought that he was going to kill him, because he literally crushed his just sides. But that was a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality, because the Prophet ﷺ, in the books they always say, kana yatahannathu, yatahannath. And in the commentaries always say, at-tahannuth huwa ta'abbud. The tahannuth is a type of devotional practice. So the practice that the Prophet ﷺ was doing, the meditation that he was doing in the Ghar, Hira, there on Jabal Nur, was called tahannuth. Now we just read in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, what verse had that word in it? Anybody who is? Al-Hinth al-Azim, right? So the Hinth is in Surah Al-Waqi'ah. What does it mean in there? Al-Hinth. Anybody? Luckily you're doing Surah Al-Waqi'ah with Shaykh Yahya. So you'll know what Hinth. Hinth is shirk. So tahannuth is in the morphology of Arabic, tahannuth, one of the meanings of the tafa'ul wazn is called tafa'ul, the paradigm of tafa'ul. One of the meanings is to avoid. So you have like hujud is sleep. Tahajjud is to avoid sleep. So yatahajjad means you're struggling to avoid sleep. Tahannuth means to avoid shirk, to remove oneself from shirk. Now the greatest shirk is worship of the self. Idolatry has nothing on self-olatry, right? Really. Because the worship of the self, and Allah mentions about people that take their hawa as their God, right? Ittakhadha ilahuhu hawahu. Like he took as his God his desires, his self, whatever the self wants, the dictates of the self. So the emptying out of the self is necessary in order to prepare for your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though it's part of the journey, because the journey, you have to pack before you go on a journey, right? You get your provisions ready. So the journey actually starts before you set out on the physical journey of actually moving towards your destination. There's things you have to do. So you have to get your visa if you need a visa. You have to get your tickets. You have to do all these things. So the emptying out is really the preparation to really move spiritually on the path. And that's why the Isra is such an interesting event in the Prophet ﷺ's life, because now tonight, which is 27th of